was always a battle to get that through lawyers. You know, we couldn't get we couldn't name names.
Behind the glam and shimmer lies a world that is often shrouded in secrecy, where young actors and actresses are made to feel like they have to give up their bodies to make it big.
Did I ask his permission? No. Did I assume he'd be okay with it? Yes. Was that right? Absolutely not.
From casting couch rumors to Kim K getting attacked being faked and more, today we're diving deep into the Hollywood secrets. So in March of 2012, Kim Kardashian was doused in flour while walking the red carpet at the launch of her perfume, True Reflection in West Hollywood. Now, prior to the attack, Kim looked really cute. She was wearing these tight black pants, a matching blazer, a bright blue blouse. It was fun. It was that business casual-esque sort of look, but the flour ended up covering her entire upper half and her hair, and ugh, getting that out of your hair, it's like paste. So at the time, TMZ reported that Kim and her momager, Kris Jenner, were quickly ushered into a private room following the incident, and then Kim came back out later laughing off the ordeal, being like, oh my gosh, that is probably the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that ever happened to me. Like, I said to my makeup artist that I wanted more powder, and that's a whole lot of translucent powder right there. Meanwhile, the assailant reportedly ran off after throwing the flour, but was intercepted by somebody who worked for Kim and held until the police arrived. She was arrested, but Kim opted not to press charges, with the woman being released shortly afterwards. Now, at the time, everybody thought that the attack was animal rights oriented. Apparently the woman shouted "fur hog" when she threw the flour. And previously, PETA had called out Kim for her love of fur, but the organization denied that they were involved. And trust me, they love to take credit when they do something like that. So here's the thing, folks. Kim Kardashian's former media strategist, Shiraz Hassan, alleged that the infamous incident was actually staged to help promote this whole perfume launch. In the documentary, The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claimed he told her, okay, this is what's gonna happen, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's gonna happen? Everybody's going to be talking about your perfume, everybody's going to buy it. Well, that's a weird way of doing it, but I guess no publicity is bad publicity? That's the phrase, right? So long before the most recent Hollywood scandals we can't talk about emerged, there were rumors about the casting couch, a term used to describe stars who are given roles in exchange for favors of a carnal nature. Megan Fox gave an interview to GQ and put the rumors to rest by laying out the cold, hard facts. The actress said that Hollywood legends would invite her to meet, and she would be so excited for the opportunity. Then when she would show up, she would realize that the meeting was just a ruse. She said a lot of the men were able to get away with sleeping with a lot of women in the industry, but she wasn't one of them. She would shut them down immediately, and that kind of explains why her acting career kind of fell to the wayside for a bit. The history of the casting couch is lengthy, with many guilty of its use. An early practitioner was Louis B. Mayer, who co-founded Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios back in 1924. MGM? Mayer, the ground zero of this kind of harm, had the means, motive, opportunity, and that critical piece of the puzzle. The power. If women didn't comply, he'd threaten to ruin their careers or those of their loved ones. Yeah, sound familiar? So according to film critic and historian Carrie Rickey, the perils for women in Hollywood are embedded, like landmines, from an actress's debut to her swan song. This is a place where big moguls wouldn't cast starlets unless they auditioned in bed, which so freaking gross. So everybody calls Elvis Presley the king of rock and roll, but I think that title really belongs to Chuck Berry. The man was a rock pioneer, and with a little help from Marty McFly, he produced some all-time classics like Johnny B. Good, Roll Over Beethoven. Rolling Stone even went so far as to deem him the 5th greatest artist of all time. But and it's a big one. While he's one of America's greatest musicians, there are some who'd say he's also one of America's biggest creeps. I know, it broke my heart, but over the years he has had multiple run-ins with the law. In the 70s he was arrested for income tax evasion. In 1987 he was arrested for harming a woman. In 1990 police raided his home and made off with a lot of substances and weapons. But things get worse if we go way back in time. Well, not way back, but like 1961. He was arrested for transporting a female across state lines for naughty purposes. And sadly, that wasn't the only time he was accused of freaky behavior. In 1990, he was sued by multiple women, all of whom claimed he had videotaped them while using the bathroom. Now, this restroom in question was located in a St. Louis restaurant owned by the rock star, but instead of going to court, he settled. Supposedly, the whole ordeal cost him $1.2 million plus legal fees, and it really goes to show that when you're talking about beloved celebrities, You can never tell. So sometimes all it takes is an illicit substance for an actor or actress to put on their best performance. Tinseltown has been known to allegedly supply many A-list stars with a never-ending flow of their favorite vice. Actor Dennis Quaid revealed he had a casual addiction to no-no snow before becoming a huge star. When he first moved to LA in 1974, he dabbled with it here and there, but things didn't get out of control until he was booked to appear in mainstream films. He did reveal that no-no snow was listed in movies' budgets, but it was disguised as petty cash to keep the substance stuff on sets a secret, or an open secret. He claimed this was freely given out on movie sets because it was the norm. It was something everybody was doing. Now, looking back on it, he called his addiction one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. He said being addicted to it caused his entire life to fall apart. Even Jack Nicholson has spoken candidly about his use of substances. In a 1980 interview, he said, it ain't no big thing, and he still loved to, have fun about 4 days a week. Which, like, that sounds a little dangerous, a little too much, but what do I know? The Brady Bunch was one of TV's most wholesome shows. When it first hit the air in 1969, it was one of the first TV shows to portray a blended family. Whether you watched the show when it first aired or caught it in reruns, it has been a staple for generations, thanks to its family-friendly storytelling. And sorry to be the one to break it to you, but this show had a dark side too. And the youngest Brady, Cindy, otherwise known as Susan Olsen, spilled some serious scoop. So rumors of behind-the-scenes hookups have always run rampant, and this happens on any show. But Olsen confirmed the actors were all hooking up with each other in one way or another. She said, we led a sheltered life for part of the year, so if there was anybody to get a crush on or to try to date, it would be our counterparts. Now, look, they weren't real life brothers and sisters, so I guess it's not so bad. According to Olsen, she and Mike Lookinland started having a makeout session in Tiger's doghouse when they were on the show. And yes, the thing that you're feeling right now are the last shreds of your innocence leaving your soul. I know. I'm sorry to break your heart. So Mean Girls was a hit when it released in 2004, and it's gone on to become a cultural phenomenon. This film, starring Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams, gave us The Plastics, it gave us Fetch, Burn Books, Pink Wednesdays. It's inspired a whole culture. It's infiltrated our language. When you compare somebody to Regina George, you know what it means. There's references scattered throughout pop culture to this day. However, despite everything that's been written about the film, there's a dark side of it that's rarely ever been addressed. So Daniel, who played lovable pal Damien, was a real-life victim of bullying, on this set and on other sets. It took many years for him to open up about the experience, only going public in 2007 when he accused actress Bijou Phillips of bullying him. Now, the pair worked together on his first film, ironically named Bully in 2001, and he accused her of body-shaming him and making him feel uncomfortable by asking about his sexuality. Now, Phillips later issued a public apology, but denied being homophobic. So powerful figures in Hollywood have continued to enjoy strong careers even after horrible allegations of on-set harm. Let's spin the wheel, Quentin Tarantino. In an interview with the New York Times about a disgraced Hollywood producer, Uma Thurman talked about her experience with Tarantino on Pulp Fiction and many other movies, and she said that he both put his hands around her neck and spit on her for different moments in the films. And he confirmed these allegations, but he defended his reasoning. Uma Thurman also said that Tarantino pushed her into doing a dangerous stunt that ended in a serious car accident. Now, she's forgiven him, because apparently he sent her the footage and called it the biggest regret of his life, but she continues to blame, rightfully so, all the producers for the traumatic event and their alleged efforts to cover it up. Now, in response to these allegations, in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, one producer said, "I deeply regret that Uma suffered the pain she has, both physically and emotionally, for all of these years from the accident that occurred on the set. The safety of the producers who work on the movies I produce is vital to me. I will never let anyone down." And he tried to deny that there was any cover-up, but like, sir? Dave Grohl, Brad Pitt, Justin Timberlake, and so many more folks really are the personification of once a cheater, always a cheater. Dave Grohl took to Instagram back in September of this year to admit to cheating on his wife and welcoming an offspring with a named woman. He said, "I've recently become the father of a new daughter born outside of my marriage. I plan to be a loving and supportive parent to her. I love my wife and my family, and I'm doing everything I can to regain their trust and earn their forgiveness." Dave Grohl shares daughters, with his wife, who he married in 2003. This was quite the revelation on the internet. So Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston might be amicable exes now. However, there was a time when things were really ugly between the two. So Brad was accused of cheating on Jennifer with Angelina Jolie, and the rumors proved to be true when he gave an interview to an international outlet, apologizing to his ex-wife. He told Parade magazine, "I spent the 90s trying to hide out, trying to duck the full celebrity cacophony. I started to get sick of myself, sitting on a couch, holding a little something, hiding out. It started feeling pathetic. It became very clear to him that he was intent on trying to find a movie about an interesting life, but he wasn't living an interesting life himself, and he thinks that his marriage had something to do with it, trying to pretend the marriage was something that it wasn't. He's satisfied with making true choices and finding the woman I love, Angie, and building a family that I love so much. A family is a risky venture because the greater the love, the greater the loss. That's the trade-off, but I'll take it. He did apologize to Jennifer Aniston, saying, "It grieves me that this was interpreted this way. Jen is an incredibly giving, loving, and hilarious woman who remains my friend. It is an important relationship I value greatly. The point I was trying to make is not that Jen was dull, but that I was becoming dull to myself, and that I am responsible for." Well, are you responsible for problem 2.0 with Angelina? It's no secret that Tristan Thompson has landed in hot water multiple times for cheating on Khloe Kardashian. He was caught cheating on Khloe just days before she gave birth for the first time, back in 2018, and while the reality star decided to give the professional athlete a second chance for the sake of their daughter, they ultimately split in February of 2019 after he was caught making out with her BFF Jordan Woods at a party in LA. The pair's relationship was further tested in December of 2021 when fitness model Marilee Nichols welcomed son Theo and sued Thompson for support. A paternity test later revealed that indeed he was the father. In 2022, news outlets confirmed that a surrogate was carrying their second offspring when news of the paternity scandal broke, and another insider was like, yeah, they haven't spoken since December outside of co-parenting matters, and they welcomed their second offspring while estranged. In July of 2012, paparazzi photos of Kristen Stewart, who was dating Twilight co-star Robert Pattinson at the time, kissing director Rupert Sanders, were published by news outlets. The actress released a statement shortly afterwards saying she was deeply sorry for the hurt and embarrassment she caused to those close to her and everyone it affected. That momentary indiscretion jeopardized the most important thing in her life, the person she loved and respected the most, Rob. I love him, I'm so sorry. In 2013, after welcoming the 4th edition of their now 5 additions to the family, it was revealed that Dean McDermott cheated on Tori Spelling in a 2-day fling. In a candid interview with ET Canada the following year, he admitted that what he did was wrong, but he was painted in an unfair light for it. He said, "When you're at the checkout and you look over and see one of those magazines and it's like, Dean McDermott's a monster," and I'm like, no, I'm not a monster, I'm a human being and I messed up. He said he messed up and he's owning up to it and he's getting help. But to label me a monster or evil is very hurtful. Now, the duo did work through the cheating, but they called off their marriage in 2023. Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston split in 1989 after she found out he got somebody else pregnant. Years later, the shining actor spoke about his infidelity, saying, "I was in a wonderful relationship with Angelica. It was as good as it gets. I immediately told her what was up and she made the decision for us." He recalled saying that her first response was, "You have to support this woman." Now, her second response was to come down to my job and bop the hell out of me. And he said, "She really did a number on me. Angelica can really throw a punch." In a rather gross take, Nicholson concluded, "I'm such a wag, I'm a scamp, I don't deny it. I like myself, I grew up in a beauty parlor my family ran, so I'm used to getting along with the ladies. I prefer their company for the most part. I was pampered from the very beginning." Blech. Known to be a flirt and flaunting his narcissistic being, Adam Levine was accused of cheating on his wife of 8 years, Bahati Prinsloo, with an Instagram model. Summer Stroh made a TikTok alleging that she had a year-long affair with the Maroon 5 frontman, and as she pulled up several receipts, he released a statement on his Insta story which read, "I used poor judgment in speaking with anyone other than my wife in any kind of flirtatious manner. I did not have an affair. I crossed the line during a regrettable period of my life. In certain instances, it became inappropriate." And well, Adam's like, "No, I did not cheat. I did not cheat." 5 other women have come forward with claims of inappropriate behavior from him, so Britney Spears was completely infatuated with Justin Timberlake during the relationship from 1999 to 2002. She was so in love that she didn't want to rock the boat when she knew he was cheating on her, and she wrote as much in her memoir, The Woman in Me. She said, "Pretty soon I realized I was head over heels in love with him. So in love it was pathetic. I was so in love with Justin, just smitten. I don't know if when you're younger, love's a different thing, but what Justin and I had was special. He won't even have time to say anything or do anything for me to feel close to him." The two shared a home in Orlando and would see each other between their performance commitments. Despite the giddiness and infatuation she describes, Britney did say that there were a couple of times during the relationship when she knew Justin had cheated on her, especially because she was so infatuated and so in love, she let it go, even though the tabloids were determined to rub it in her face. Even when paparazzi had photos of Justin in a car with a certain human, she said, "I never said anything. At the time, we'd only been together for a year. There were rumors about him with various dancers and groupies. I let it all go, but clearly, he'd slept around." It was one of those things where you know, but you just don't say anything. What comes next, folks, may seem familiar familiar if you've seen the music video for Cry Me a River, Britney fooled around with choreographer Wade Robson, who had worked with both singers. And she said, "So I did too. Not a lot. One time with Wade Robson, we went out one night, we went to a Spanish bar, we danced and danced, I made out with him that night." She said she was loyal to Justin for years, only had eyes for him with that one exception, which she admitted to him. That night was chalked up to something that will happen when you are as young as you were, and the duo moved past it and stayed together. She thought they were going to be together forever. She hoped they would be. Obviously, history has shown that forever didn't come true, but Britney didn't see the eventual text message breakup coming. She said that when Justin first started making his solo album, he was getting very standoffish with her, and she thinks that's because he decided to use her as ammunition for the record, and so it made it awkward for him to be around her, staring at him with all that affection and devotion. She saw the breakup message while filming the music video for Overprotected, the remix, which, oh, such a good video, and then went back to work. She said, "I had to go back out and dance." For as much as Justin hurt her, there was a huge foundation of love, and she said when he left her, she was devastated. She said she could barely speak for months. When anybody asked about him, all she could do was cry. She doesn't know if she was clinically in shock, but she felt that way. She talked about how his family had been the only real loving family she had. Okay, my cruel intention loving heart shattered when I found out Ryan Philippe had cheated on Reese Witherspoon because she deserves better. The relationship ended in 2007 after she confronted him about being unfaithful after reading text messages between him and his co-star Abby Cornish. Having said that, Ryan Philippe pointed out in a 2008 interview that the scrutiny that Abby faced was uncalled for, which that's fair. He said it was unfair for her to be called the name she was because, well, it wasn't about that. I don't think an outside person can ever cause a divorce. He said he had difficulties in his relationship and marriage long before he ever met her. Celebrities are allowed to have their secrets, but folks like Kim K, Lady Gaga, JLo, and more have had some really dark secrets leaked by their staff that we need to talk about. In March of 2012, Kim Kardashian was doused in flour while walking the red carpet at the launch of her perfume. I think it was called True Reflection. She was in West Hollywood. Now, prior to that, she was looking super cute. She was wearing these tight black pants, a matching blazer, a bright blue blouse, like it was a really cute fit. But the flour wound up covering like the entire upper half of her body and her hair, and it looked so gross. So at the time, she and her momager, Chris, they were quickly ushered into a private room. They, cleaned up, whatever, went back out. And Kim was like laughing it off. She said, "That is probably the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that ever happened to me. Like, I said to my makeup artist that I wanted more powder, and that's a whole lot of translucent powder right there. And like, I love laughing it off. Comedy's great." Apparently, the assailant reportedly ran off after throwing the flour, but then was intercepted by somebody who worked for Kim, held until the police arrived. She was arrested, but Kim didn't press charges. So the woman was released. And at the time, it was speculated that the attack was animal rights oriented. The woman allegedly shouted "fur hog" when she threw the flour. Sure, previously before that, PETA had called Kim out for her love of fur, but the organization denied that they were involved. And trust me, they're allowed to take credit for things that they do. Also, Kim wasn't wearing fur that day. This is not the Victoria's Secret fashion show, folks. So, Kim Kardashian's former media strategist, Shiraz Hassan, alleged that the infamous incident was actually staged to help promote the perfume. In the documentary The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claimed he told her, "Okay, this is what's gonna happen. You're going to be fine, you're going to be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's gonna happen? Everyone's going to be talking about your perfume, everyone's going to buy it." Okay, whatever floats your boat. I don't think it's worth being covered in flour for. Lady Gaga was once involved in a bitter lawsuit with a former assistant, Jennifer O'Neill, and declared in court papers she was queen of the universe every day and O'Neill did not want to be her slave. So in the court papers, Lady Gaga apparently complained that O'Neill failed in simple duties, such as laying out her toothbrush and soap so she knew where they were. She insisted that O'Neill lived large off of her dime, wore her clothes, bagged the best bed on her private jet, and left the poor diva to lug her own suitcases. Meanwhile, disgruntled O'Neill sued for over $400,000 in unpaid overtime plus damages and testified that she was required to sleep in Gaga's bed because she didn't sleep alone and was expected to be working and available 24/7 for an annual salary of just $75 grand. Such hours and demands might seem absurd to those outside of showbiz circles, but they're kind of par for the course. There's no such thing as overtime or having your own life when you work in showbiz, and thankfully the two settled out of court, but like, what was true here and what was a fib? Hakob Manoukian began chauffeuring JLo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011. Now, by September of that year, he was gone from her staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination, and this was against JLo, her company, and her manager, Benny Medina. Pasadena. He claimed his agreement with J-Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 yearly. But according to news outlets, he never received that production pay or the overtime. He claimed he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. Now, J-Lo filed a countersuit against him, seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was blackmailing her for $2.8 million because he was threatening to expose private information that he heard when chauffeuring her around. The countersuit also alleged that he became hostile and angry when J-Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. Now, the countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and they wound up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February 2013, but this isn't the only former J-Lo staffer we're talking about today. Scott Barnes, an incredible makeup artist. He was credited with creating the signature technique that became J-Lo's glow in the early 2000s. It was like the look of the era. These two worked together from like the year 2000 until just recently. He was her personal makeup artist. He worked on Hustlers with her. He worked on the Super Bowl halftime performance. He worked on everything. The working relationship and friendship was like 2 decades long. But there's been some hiccups and it doesn't seem like the two are like buddy-buddy anymore. Let me know if I'm wrong though. So he spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show. So there was rumors circulating that Barnes and a couple of others leaked plans of J-Lo and Mark Anthony's secret marriage to the press, and nobody was talking to Barnes after that. He said, oh my gosh, nobody would talk to me. Now when the truth came out that he did not leak the news, he didn't even know about the wedding ahead of time, he got a phone call. And it was like, hey, it's a big misunderstanding. We have a lot of stuff coming up. I really miss you. Let's just get back to work. And great that he was so diplomatic in talking about all of this, considering it was like a whole fallout, but it's very clear he never got a direct apology. Also, at the time when that hiccup happened, it was really fast when the two reconciled, but it looks like they might be on the outs again. So maybe we'll get another tell-all. Mariah Carey's former personal assistant, Leanna Azarian, claimed she was subject to battery and harassment during her approximately 2 years of employment before being wrongfully terminated by the pop diva. I think that was in 2017. Now, that's according to a lawsuit that was filed with the Los Angeles Superior Court on that same day, which was the day that Mariah Carey sued Leanna, accusing her former assistant of secretly filming embarrassing videos, which was in violation of a standard NDA. Oh, and apparently the assistant was trying to extort her out of like $8 million. So according to a copy of the 32-page complaint from Leanna, she said she was hired by Mariah Carey in September 2015 at a salary of $250,000 per year. That eventually increased to almost like $330,000. She claimed the job entailed her to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist Mariah Carey and the manager. According to the lawsuit, Leanna claims the manager subjected her to verbal and physical harm, ridiculing her about body parts, making physical contact, and a lot of things that I can't repeat. But like, look it up. On multiple occasions, Leanna claimed the manager tackled her to the ground and then like did things to her. And apparently, according to the lawsuit, Mariah Carey knew about and was present for a lot of this alleged mistreatment and like allowed it to continue. And when Leanna complained about the conduct in October 2017, she was let go. So obviously she sued for battery, discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination. According to a lot of news outlets, Mariah Carey's lawsuit accuses Leanna of being a grifter, a peeping Tom, and an extortionist, and claimed Leanna secretly filmed Mariah engaged in personal activities, which, if revealed, would be personally embarrassing and professionally damaging. Well, Leanna displayed the intimate videos allegedly to her friends and coworkers, and she said, hey, if I'm ever fired, I'm gonna sell these for a profit and buy myself a home. Well, girly pop, where are the videos? Because if they're not on the internet, she didn't do it. In an interview for the unauthorized Anna, a biography, Anna Wintour's garden designer, Miranda Brooks, said that Anna Wintour didn't like vegetables and therefore refused to plant a veggie garden at her Long Island home. Now, if we're talking about all of Anna's former staff, being her assistant was apparently exactly like how it was portrayed in The Devil Wears Prada. Love that movie. She has 3 assistants at any given time. Her first, primary assistant. Second one takes care of the home and the dogs, which at one point she had like all golden doodles, which like, so cute. And the third's in charge of running errands and organizing Anna's clothes, which like, I would not want to be in charge of that. One former assistant said they were terrified to ride in the elevator with her because Anna would list off everything they needed to do, even though they weren't like by their desks to write this down. So they're just like, oh, we kind of have to like remember all this. They were also scared to leave their desks to even just go to the bathroom. Anna would typically address all of them using the first assistant's name until she was sure they were actually gonna last. What secrets are Taylor Swift, John Hamm, Phil Lewis, and and more hiding? Well, stick around to find out. Some of Taylor Swift's musical inspirations have not been entirely impressed by the singer's not-so-romantic ballads. In 2012, John Mayer told Rolling Stone that he was embarrassed by the song Dear John after her third studio album, Speak Now, because it was kind of presumed to be about him. He said it made me feel terrible because I didn't deserve it. Apparently he was blindsided by the song's release. I never got an email, I never got a phone call, I was really caught off guard. He said like Taylor was too big of an artist to stoop to what he thought was low-level songwriting. Now in response, Taylor Swift claimed to Glamour that he wasn't the track's inspiration. She's like, how presumptuous, I never disclose who my songs are about. But he's not alone in his gripes. In an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Taylor revealed that her song Forever and Always was written with Joe Jonas in mind, and apparently Joe had like called off the relationship over a brief phone call. Well, Joe took to MySpace to address his split, being like, for those who express concern over the 27-second phone call, I called to discuss feelings with the other person. Those feelings were obviously not well received. I did not end the conversation, someone else did. Phone calls can last only as long as the person on the other end of the line is willing to talk. Well, in the summer of 2012, Taylor Swift made headlines once again for a reported whirlwind romance with Connor Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Speaking to ABC News in October of that year, Taylor didn't want to comment on the relationship because she doesn't talk about her personal life in that great detail. She said, I feel like you can share enough of your life in your music to still let people know what you're going through and how you feel, and still with all the connection. Well, the bone of contention wasn't just the 4-year age difference between the then couple, but the fact that the duo was first spotted getting cozy only a week after Kennedy had become legal. So when asked if Taylor kidnapped Kennedy by flying him out to Nashville privately, she was like, how did I kidnap him? You can't kidnap a grown man. These are serious accusations. Well, apparently, Taylor had been studying the Kennedy family prior to the relationship. Folks had a lot to say when she bought a $4.9 million beach house near the Kennedy estate in Cape Cod, allegedly just to be close to the family. And after the couple broke up, she sold the place. So when Taylor and Connor were dating, she was also accused of crashing a family wedding with him against the bride's wishes. Connor's cousin, Kyle Kennedy, was tying the knot with Liam Kerr, and Mother Victoria was like, I didn't want Taylor in attendance. She told news outlets that apparently the couple texted her an hour before the wedding and was like, hey, can we come? And she responded with a very clear, please do not come, and they arrived anyways. According to Victoria's account of the events, she graciously let Swift know her name, showed her the door afterwards. But Taylor apparently paid her no mind. Victoria said, it was like talking to a ghost. She looked right past me. Jon Hamm, star of Mad Men, took part in a violent university hazing in 1990 at the University of Texas that led to criminal charges, at least according to court and school records. The incredible actor had not been previously publicly linked to a lawsuit filed by a member of a fraternal social organization who said he was severely harmed, dragged with a hammer, and had his pants lit on fire. In the 1991 lawsuit, the inductees said Hamm participated till the very end. Criminal records show that, well, he was charged with hazing and received probation, and a separate charge of harm was dismissed. That chapter of the fraternity, by the way, was permanently disbanded. A rep for Jon Hamm didn't comment on the incident when it was brought to light in 2015, and the star himself didn't give much of a comment to Esquire in a later interview. In addition to his hit piece comment, he was like bristling at the topic, and when he finally addressed it, he downplayed it as sensationalized. He literally said, I wouldn't say it's accurate, everything about that is sensationalized. I was accused of these things I don't do, it's so hard to get into it. I don't want to give it any more breath. It was a bummer of a thing that happened. I was essentially acquitted. I wasn't convicted of anything. I was caught up in a big situation, stupid situation, and it's an effing bummer. I moved on from it. So sure, none of the records were sealed. John wasn't famous when the incident happened, and his connection to the case didn't come to light until magazines reported on it. But the internet had opinions about how he talked about it, with one user on Twitter saying, Jon Hamm addressing his hazing scandal in this profile is a great example of how not to sound sorry about hooking the claw end of a hammer underneath a freshman's you-know-what. Somebody else said, men like Jon Hamm were dangerous to be around on a college campus. Because if they thought hazing was okay, you can better believe they thought worse things were no big thing. Good men don't haze people. Men who do were trash. And that was according to Shades of Limelight. Fun fact, folks, there are more connections with mainstream Hollywood and the adult industry than you might think. Some major players such as Sylvester Stallone, Wes Craven and Men in Black director Barry Sonnenfeld cut their teeth in the genre. It was also commonplace for many behind the camera to work interchangeably between the two worlds, sometimes using pseudonyms. So for example, cinematographer Wow Fernandez used names like Harry Flex for his adult film work, but he went under his real name for mainstream movies like Invasion USA, Friday the 13th, Final Chapter. In the early 1930s and then again in the 1940s, Joan Crawford was one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. But before her star took off, there was a bit of a scandal that almost stopped everything. In 1923, a year before she first appeared on Broadway, Crawford reportedly starred in a movie called The Casting Couch. Now that name should give everything away, but in case you're a little bit lost, it was essentially an adult film. Crawford, trying to make ends meet and get her name out there, apparently starred in many adult movies around that time. Now she repeatedly denied her involvement, but researchers have found that sadly, she was blackmailed at the time because of the movie. Phil Lewis started his film career in the iconic 1988 comedy film Heathers. That movie centers around a slew of, crazy crimes, and that would become all too relevant to Lewis in just a few years. In 1991, at the age of 23, Lewis was arrested after accidentally taking the life of a woman with his car. The amount of fun fluids in his system was over 3 times the legal level, which even his own defense attorney called extraordinarily high. Lewis claimed he was unable to remember anything for nearly 10 hours leading up to the accident, which was deemed possible due to his extreme level of intoxication. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was reduced to just 1 after he spent much of his sentence working with a prison-based theater troupe that highlighted the consequences of that kind of crime. Now, despite these rough years as a young man, he continued to land guest roles in shows such as Married with Children, Boy Meets World, and then got that lead role on Sweet Life, which we all know him from. Uma Thurman said that Quentin Tarantino both hand necklaced her and spit on her for different shots, for different moments in the films Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, and Tarantino confirmed these allegations, but defended the reasoning behind them. Now, Thurman has said that Tarantino also pushed her into doing a dangerous stunt that ended in a serious car accident, and these are all things that I think should be talked about more. Tippi Hedren was Alfred Hitchcock's most iconic leading lady. Under his direction, she went from being a model to a respected actress, but unfortunately, he wanted a little more than to just direct her on screen. He was reportedly quite obsessed with her and made a number of unwanted advances, which she rejected. She said, "He stared at me and simply said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, that from that time on, he expected her to make herself available and accessible to him, however and whenever and wherever he wanted." Now, when Tippi tried to get out of her contract with him, he threatened to ruin her career, and then he followed through on his threat. Because he had her under contract, he was able to keep her on the payroll without actually employing her. He made sure to turn down any film offers that came in from any studios. Looking back, she has a pretty good attitude about the situation, saying he ruined my career but didn't ruin my life. That time when my life was over, and I still admire the man for who he was, but yikes. The Kennedy curse spares no man. Senator Ted Kennedy, younger brother of President John F. Kennedy, was driving over a bridge with politician Mary Jo Kopechne in 1969 when the car leaped over the barrier and sank into the ocean. And while Kennedy was able to swim to safety, Mary Jo didn't make it. Once Kennedy made it back to his hotel, he waited till morning to call the police and report the crash. It is thought that maybe Mary Jo could have survived if help had arrived sooner rather than wait the 9 hours. Why did he do this? Well, he didn't want to get in trouble with the law, so he waited until the morning when he had sobered up. Some folks think that maybe the entire incident was an attempt to take the life of Mary Jo for unknown reasons. On air, Oprah was portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, but according to her stepmom, there's an unknown side to Oprah, one that she hid from her fans for, well, years. So according to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people you will ever meet. She claimed that when, she wanted to come and visit, Oprah was like, "No, you're not staying at my house. You're gonna stay in a hotel, and I'm not paying for that. You better pay for that yourself." Also, apparently Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with a lot of folks being fired left and right over the years for, well, no reason. But here's the thing. Even though Oprah doesn't let Barbara stay in her house, despite being a billionaire who could afford to stay in a hotel, when Oprah goes to visit Barbara, Barbara allows her to stay at home. Which, Oprah's like, I guess. Apparently, the first time Oprah stayed over at Barbara's, she allegedly complained that her bed sheets were not 1,000 threads and that her bath towels weren't big enough. Look, lady, you've got how much money? You could bring your own towels, your own bed sheets if you really wanted. You don't have to make your family feel like a burden just because it's not up to your standards. Thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that kind of veer towards the decidedly out there, her legacy isn't exactly spotless. Sure, on one hand, she has endorsed plenty of credible things in her heyday. Barack Obama, John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which became a bestseller after being featured on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2003, like a whole 51 years after it was published. But But on the other hand, we have Oprah to blame, and I mean blame, for the rise of former actor Jenny McCarthy, who first said her opinion that vaccinations cause autism on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2007 to disastrous effect. McCarthy has since been repeatedly cited as a factor in the return of diseases such as whooping cough in the US. Another one, Dr. Oz, the famed Turkish-American heart surgeon, first appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became, along with, Phil McGraw and Rachel Ray, part of Oprah's team of experts who regularly appear on the show. Now, Oz dispenses with facts he doesn't find convenient and manifests an egregious lack of integrity by promoting quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. He's more like a Kardashian than a surgeon, according to some of his critics, which includes many of his colleagues, who argue that Oz's endorsement under a medical banner of certain remedies, ranging from the pseudoscientific to the downright kooky, is immoral. Now, he has argued that the Dr. Oz show was not a medical show. So, in other words, he seemed to be saying people would be better off taking medical advice from Dr. Pepper than from Dr. Oz. Alright, well, give me a can. The legend of Oprah Winfrey as an extremely poor girl growing up without a father, a too young mother who, Oprah claimed, carried with shame during pregnancy and then neglected her, spread like wildfire when Oprah began giving interviews in Chicago. She was like, oh, how they harmed me. I wanted to be white because I never saw white people being hurt. Now, she remembered her early years as lonely. She didn't play with anybody except for the pigs she rode without a saddle in her grandmother's garden. She mentioned, verbatim, the only thing I could talk to was the animals in the farmyard. I read them Bible stories. Apparently the years spent with a mother on welfare were even worse. They were so poor they couldn't afford a dog or a cat, so she had 2 cockroaches as pets. She put them in a jar, named them Melinda and Sandy, and she entertained her audiences with stories about fetching water from the well, milking cows, emptying the drinking pot. A fairy tale, really. She told stories about a grandmother who swung a switch, a grandfather who was quick with a stick, the people who raised her for the earliest years of life. She mentioned, oh, they harmed me. Oh, I wanted to be white. She mentioned this repeatedly, folks. She mentioned that her grandmother used to harm her all the time because allegedly it's an integral part of Southern tradition. The way folks were raised. You spill something, you get a thrashing. You tell a story, you get a thrashing. She mentioned that her grandmother could have done that all the time and not get tired. Well, here's the thing. Not everybody in Oprah's family agreed with this desperate upbringing. Her mother, Vernita Lee, when asked about her daughter's habits of self-dramatization, said, yeah, Oprah's a bit of a cold smoker. And Oprah's sister later dispelled the myth of immense poverty. Patricia said, of course we weren't rich, but Oprah exaggerated how bad it was for us. She guesses that Oprah did this because the viewers would love her, the audience would grow. But she's like, cockroaches were never her pet. She always had a dog. She had a white cat. She had an eel in a tank, a parakeet named Bo Peep, who she taught to speak. Where Oprah got that nonsense about growing up in filth and roaches, I have no idea. That was another statement made by her cousin, Catherine Carr. She's mentioned that she's confronted her. She asked, Oprah, why do you tell such lies? And Oprah allegedly said, that's what people want to hear. The truth is boring. Well, I don't know about you, but I just want to know the truth. So Oprah has been recently called out for using weight loss medication, despite being a long-time ambassador for Weight Watchers. Seriously. They're kind of synonymous. The famous talk show host has confirmed she uses an unnamed substance to help control her weight. In a revealing chat, Oprah said her latest slim figure is thanks to the medication and a healthier lifestyle overall. She's like, I now use it as I feel I need it, and she mentioned the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in her lifetime feels like a relief, like redemption, like a gift, and not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. In a conversation with People magazine, Oprah concluded, I'm absolutely done with the shaming from other people and particularly myself. However, some fans felt the billionaire philanthropist was feeling hypocritical. Once again, given she is a proud spokesperson for Weight Watchers. She's worked with them since 2017, if not before that. One social media user wrote, what I don't like about Oprah is she is clearly doing Ozempic, but yet she's still pushing Weight Watchers. And another person was like, okay, done with the shaming, but okay with lying. Others called out the star for letting folks believe she did it the old-fashioned way, asking once again, the party line for today, Oprah, why are you lying? So here's the thing. Confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Take Marvel for example. If you say something, if you leak a single line, a single name, game over for you. Poor Tom Holland. So in Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentioned the confidentiality agreements that anybody who was going to appear on Oprah's show or work on her show were made to sign. So we're talking let's say Tom Cruise is on the show. He's going to sign one. If you make Tom Cruise a muffin and you're within the vicinity of the show, you've got to sign one. So think about all the people over the years that have had to sign this. We're talking like over 500 people. So one former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to write a book about her time working for Oprah, but she was stopped by the courts, still being tied to the agreement she signed. So the NDAs were not just meant to be a way to keep, the show secrets safe, but all of Oprah's personal secrets. So according to Elizabeth, if you were anywhere in Oprah's life, you had to sign one of those. And Oprah was like, hey, I feel kind of, restrained after signing the paperwork. She's not the only one. In 2010, Unicus Performance Training filed a lawsuit against Oprah and her company Harpo, claiming they never got paid for a workout program they were developing. UPT said Harpo fired them for violating the terms of their confidentiality agreement, after UPT sent out a mass email promoting their upcoming appearance on Oprah's radio show. Well, turns out, according to the confidentiality agreement, UPT wasn't allowed to use Harpo's name, Oprah.com's name, or Oprah's name for any advertising or promotional purposes. Unless, of course, they wanted to get the axe, even though they were literally just promoting their appearance on her show. In August of 2023, a series of wildfires devastated the Hawaiian island of Maui. Good old Oprah Winfrey teamed up with fellow Hollywood heavyweight Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to launch the People's Fund of Maui for residents with an initial donation of $10 million. The fiery disaster caused about 100 lives to be lost and $5.5 billion worth of damage. Around 12,000 people were displaced. Now, Oprah, who owns property on 1,000 acres of land in Maui, and The Rock, whose family lineage comes from the neighboring South Pacific Samoan Islands, have faced a lot of criticism over the last year. So their initial statement was they'd been meeting with community leaders for a couple of weeks, they were trying to figure out what to do, and they mentioned this in August of 2023. The Rock added, in this time of need, you want to take care of the greatest need of the people, and that's giving them money. It's going to take a little time to rebuild, it'll get a little worse before it gets a bit better, but we're here doing what we can do. So, Oprah's recent appearance at the Democratic National Convention on August 21st kind of reignited questions about how the money allotted for the Hawaiian people was being dispersed. There was an account on Twitter that went viral on August 28th, claiming that Oprah donated $150 million to the Kamala Harris campaign. And while Oprah did endorse Kamala for president, folks were like, hey, so where's all this money going?
Not every couple in Hollywood is as starry-eyed as they might seem. Here are the top 10 celebrity couples hiding dark secrets. Starting off with whatever is going on with Ben Affleck and J-Lo, because everybody wants to know, are they getting a divorce? That is kind of the big question here. A bunch of celebrity gossip sites have been speculating for weeks that everything might not be as it seems between the married couple. Affleck has allegedly purchased his own home closer to the kids who live at Jennifer Garner's house. Affleck apparently has been living there for the past little bit without J-Lo. Sources close to the couple say Jennifer Garner is trying to encourage Ben to stay with J-Lo and work through any marital problems. Apparently, J-Lo and Ben were seen leaving Ben's daughter's graduation party together, heading to his place. But when they got there, J-Lo didn't stick around, getting out of one car and immediately into the next one. We don't know what happened, of course, we weren't in the car with them, but the move at the house didn't look good, and it only fueled more rumors that the couple is in trouble. Ben was spotted without his wedding ring at one point while he was on set filming for a movie. Apparently, new photos of the house the couple purchased together last year have been popping up on Zillow. Sources close to the couple claim that the famous pair are trying to quietly sell their house now. Other sources share that the couple is just simply working on their marriage and a separation has yet to happen. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis tried to keep one big secret as hidden as possible, and for good reason. When it came out, they became a major disappointment to their fans and the internet in general. Kutcher and Kunis met and starred on That 70s Show together. They also starred in the show alongside Danny Masterson. Masterson was found guilty of acting inappropriately towards two women and has been sentenced to spend about 30 years behind bars for his behavior. This was amazing news to the average person. It was great news that he even got to trial. It seems the news wasn't so amazing to Kutcher and Kunis, as the pair had penned letters to the judge handling Masterson's case asking for leniency. The letters featured quotes from Kunis claiming Masterson was an outstanding role model and friend. The internet did not appreciate their efforts at all and was quick to put the actors in their place, so much so that they posted an apology video to Instagram. In the video, Kutcher said, "The letters were intended for the judge to read and not to undermine the testimony of any of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that, and we're sorry if that has taken place." Some said the apology was not strong enough and their actions were inexcusable. Former Hollywood it couple Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake held a pretty major secret for a long time until Britney recently shared it in her memoir. The pair were supposed to be parents. In her memoir, The Woman in Me, Britney shared that while she and Justin were dating, she got pregnant. Apparently, at the time, Justin didn't feel he was ready to be a father, so Britney had to terminate the pregnancy. However, Britney wanted the child. She was ready. In the book, she wrote, "If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it." Shortly following that up with, "To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I have ever experienced in my life." It's made pretty clear that Britney wanted the child and felt forced into what ended up happening. This story took the internet by storm when it came out. Timberlake received a lot of criticism for it. People started looking back at the way Justin acted and spoke about Britney after their breakup. At the time, it wasn't very nice, but with the new info Britney dropped, it only makes JT look even worse. Adam Levine cheating on his wife was major news, especially since absolutely no one saw it coming. Levine seemed like the perfect, supportive, devoted husband, so it was incredibly shocking when the Maroon 5 singer was caught. Even more shocking, his wife and him are still together. Even more shocking than that, the affair was brought to light by his affair partner after Levine and his wife had announced his wife's third pregnancy. Yeah, the drama was like off the charts for this one. Levine denied cheating, but did release a statement about the whole situation saying, "I used poor judgment in speaking with anyone other than my wife in any kind of flirtatious manner. I did not have an affair. Nevertheless, I crossed the line during a regrettable period of my life. In certain instances, it became inappropriate. I have addressed that and taken proactive steps to remedy this with my family. My wife and my family is all I care about in this world. To be this naive and stupid enough to risk the only thing that truly matters to me was the greatest mistake I could ever make. I will never make it again. I take full responsibility. We will get through it, and we will get through it together." They did. They are still together. Levine's career, though, has suffered, likely due to this controversy. Barbara and Dylan Sprouse are one of the internet's favorite celebrity couples, so when he was accused of cheating on her this year, quite recently this year, hearts broke around the world. The pair married just under a year ago, but were together about 5 years. People love this couple because they seemed so happy and devoted to each other. Allegedly, Dylan cheated on Barbara with an underage girl, which makes all of this even worse. Dylan does have a past of cheating. He cheated on his last girlfriend, Dana Frazier. Fans are desperately hoping that this news isn't true and it is still actually technically unconfirmed. Hopefully, this was just someone trying to stir up some unnecessary drama. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are hiding a pretty big secret. They know who is playing Lady Deadpool in the latest upcoming Deadpool movie, and I have a sneaking suspicion we all know too. It just came out that Lady Deadpool is going to be making an appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine. The newest movie teaser featured a slow-mo shot of what everybody assumes are Lady Deadpool's legs. Now, Ryan and Blake know for sure, and the rest of us are only 99% sure, that those legs belong to none other than Blake Lively, wife to Ryan Reynolds, and according to the creator of Lady Deadpool's inspiration. How cool it must be for the people who created Lady Deadpool to have the person they based it on play the role live action. This info is coming straight from a caption Rob Liefeld, Lady Deadpool creator, wrote himself about the character. Until the movie is out, Blake and Ryan will probably keep the secret close to their chests, and July can't come fast enough. A small group of people on the internet believe Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are hiding the darkest secret of all, that they are part of a massive Pentagon secret plot to get Biden reelected. This is real, and I promise I am not making it up. It made headlines around when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl earlier this year. There is a link to be found between pop culture and voting. In the past, when Swift has posted on her social media accounts asking people to register to vote, there has been a recorded spike in voter registration, so their claims are not completely baseless, I guess. Some people add on to this theory that the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl was part of the plot, so the game was rigged for them to win. Possible believer of at least some parts of this theory, Mike Crispy, tweeted some insight into how it works. He wrote, "The NFL is totally rigged for the Kansas City Chiefs, Taylor Swift, and Travis Kelce, all to spread Democratic propaganda. Calling it now. KC wins, goes to Super Bowl, Swift comes out at the halftime show and endorses Joe Biden with Kelsey at midfield. It's all been an op since day one. So it seems like part of this plan would be giving the Chiefs the win so Taylor could get on the field and have cameras on her that are broadcasting to all of America so she could endorse Biden. As we know now though, Taylor did not do any of that. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky have got something big in the shadows just waiting for the right opportunity to come out, Rihanna's new album. One can only assume that A$AP has heard a portion of it. Many people dating musicians get to hear at least a little bit of the work while it's in production, like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift for example. Plus, both members of this relationship are great artists. Is there a possibility of a collab in the future? Rihanna teased her 9th album back in April this year while at a Fenty red carpet event. Speaking to Extra, Rihanna shared, "It's gonna be amazing. It has to be. That is the only reason it's not out yet." She even spoke on the potential of a collaboration, saying, "I'm not a big collaborator. It has to be very intentional, so I'll know when I have the record." No confirmed release date, but at least fans have a sure confirmation that Rihanna is working on something and won't release it until she's completely happy with it, so it's something to look forward to. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith were holding a pretty major secret at the event that changed Will Smith's life, the 2022 Oscars. Will Smith performed the slap heard around the world after Chris Rock made a tasteless joke about Jada, after which Will headed back to his seat and yelled at Chris to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. But it turns out, as it would be revealed years later, that wife wasn't exactly the word he should have used, maybe, since he and Jada apparently were separated at the time. Jada shared with People that the actors had been living separately but not divorced for years before the incident occurred. The public knew that the couple had some rough moments over that period of time but had no idea it was that bad. Mark Wahlberg married American model Rhea Durham in 2009, and the pair are still together. However, Mark is hiding a surprisingly dark past, the kind of stuff that would get an actor for sure canceled nowadays. In 1986, Wahlberg and his friends had a civil rights injunction issued for them. The group was accused of yelling racially insensitive words towards a group of black children and even throwing physical objects at them and even chasing one of them. It seems Wahlberg didn't really learn anything from that civil rights injunction, considering 2 years later he committed an even worse transgression. He acted aggressively towards 2 Vietnamese men, cursing at one and knocking them unconscious with a large stick. The other he punched despite not knowing the victim. Wahlberg was jailed for this offense but was released 45 days into a 2-year sentence. A few years later, it is 1992, and Wahlberg's neighbor at the time became acquainted with Wahlberg's violent habits, the man needing a long visit to the hospital after. Wahlberg endorsed some anti-LGBTQ+ people on TV. It wasn't until about 2006 to 2010 that Wahlberg started coming out and saying he regretted his actions and was seeking forgiveness.
On February 26, 2024, music producer Rodney Jones filed a lawsuit against Diddy, and on March 25th, Homeland Security investigations served search warrants in the early morning raids on Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Diddy was then arrested this week after being accused of criminal activity from at least 2008. Now, he has pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyers proposed a bail package that included a $50 million bond, co-signed by Diddy, his mother, and other family members, as well as home detention, surrender of his passport, and a visitor log that would be submitted to pretrial services each night. But the judge denied this, which honestly was the right choice. It seems like a lot of different people were involved in this case. On the other hand, Diddy's lawyer has said that he's not afraid of the charges, and he also added that he thought Diddy was a target of an unjust prosecution, and the case of Diddy is still ongoing, and it will be very interesting to see what comes out of it. Then it was revealed this year that Hollywood couple Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds aren't as nice as they appear to be. Blake's movie It Ends With Us was released, and it came with a lot of drama. Now, Blake produced and starred in the film, while it was directed and co-starred by Justin Baldoni. Things started going downhill during the press release of the film as people noticed that the cast seemed really disconnected from each other. Then, Blake was called out for promoting the film in a lighthearted way when it covers serious topics. Now, she also used used the film to promote some of her brands, which just weren't appropriate. It was then revealed that her husband Ryan helped out on the film and even rewrote one of the scenes. Not to mention, Blake also made her own edit of the film. Then, a couple weeks ago, it was revealed that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's entire relationship is fake and that they were planning to break up at the end of September. Paperwork was leaked that was created by Los Angeles-based firm Full Scope, which revealed a strategy on what to do when the pair broke up and said the date for an announcement was September 28th. Now, it also outlined a supposed plan to release an official statement at the end of this month, 3 days post-breakup, to allow the initial media frenzy to settle and ensure clarity. It added that the announcement would be gracious, respectful, and stress mutual respect. But a spokesman for Full Scope insisted that they were entirely false and fabricated and were not created, issued, or authorized by this agency. Now, last year, actor Matthew Perry was found dead in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home, and now new details have been released surrounding his death. He had been treating depression with prescribed medication and no foul play was expected, but now 5 people have been arrested in the case of his death. Now, Matthew's live-in assistant, Kenneth Amasa, was the person who found the actor dead. Investigators say that he was also the one who injected Matthew with the medication that led to his death. Now, Kenneth never received medical training and knew little, if anything, about the medications. Authorities say Matthew purchased 20 vials of medication for a total of $55,000 between September and October 2023. His death could have been prevented, and overall, it's just such a sad story and outcome, but at least those responsible will be facing justice. Now, Alec Baldwin was indicted by a New Mexico grand jury and recharged in connection with the fatal 2021 Rust incident. Now, the first criminal charges brought against Alec were dropped in April 2023, but according to New Mexico law, he could have faced up to 18 months in prison with the new charges. In January, a source close to the family spoke to People about how Alec and his wife were handling the indictment. The insider shared that the pair found the news frustrating and very stressful. They knew there was a possibility there would be a new indictment, the source told People. The back and forth is hard. Then there was an announcement that the pair were getting their own reality show to show their everyday lives with their children. Now, this announcement shocked a lot of people, thinking that they agreed to the show to fix his image and bankroll his legal fees. In the end, though, the case was dropped once again, and Alec hasn't faced any more consequences. Then, this week, it was revealed that Miley Cyrus is getting sued over a song she allegedly copied from Bruno Mars. Tempo Music Investments, a company claiming it owns share of the copyright for Bruno's song When I Was Your Man, is claiming that Miley's song Flowers is a copy. In the lawsuit, it said it is undeniable based on the combination and number of similarities between the two recordings that Flowers would not exist without When I Was Your Man. Accordingly, plaintiff brings this action for copyright infringement arising out of defendants' unauthorized reproduction, distribution, and exploitation of When I Was Your Man, the complaint adds. Now, the company wants Miley and other defendants to stop reproducing, distributing, or publicly performing Flowers. The company is also seeking damages, but they have not released an amount yet. Now, Demi Lovato recently released a documentary recalling everything they went through while being a child star. I wouldn't end up where I am had I not made all the choices leading up to this point, but it came at a price, Demi explained during the doc. There's definitely not a manual on how to navigate this industry at such a young age. Now, the documentary featured other young stars like Drew Barrymore. Now, in the doc, the actors talk about bullying, how they were mistreated, and how they self-medicated to get through the pain they went through. Now, these stars hit a lot of things that were going on in their lives. It was a real eye-opener for a lot of people, and with these stars being honest, Demi is hoping that stricter laws can be made and followed when it comes to young people in the entertainment industry. Now, one of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's daughters filed paperwork to legally remove Pitt from her name the day she turned 18. Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie Pitt submitted a petition in Los Angeles County Superior Court on May 27th to change her name to Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie, the Los Angeles Times reported. She was granted this change, but she's not the only family member who did this, as in the playbill for the new musical The Outsiders, which their daughter Vivian helped Angelina produce, the teenager is listed as Vivian Jolie, Jolie instead of Vivian Jolie Pitt. Then there was a time their son Pax made a Father's Day post to Brad, and it was leaked years later. The post said, "Happy Father's Day to this world-class a-hole. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible, despicable person. You've made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself and the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday. So happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being." Recently, it's been said that Meghan Markle has reportedly been labeled Duchess difficult by US staffers. Josh Kettler, who was the top aide for the Duke and Duchess, quit his job in August after only 3 months, joining the increasing number of people who are leaving them. An insider aware of the situation told The Hollywood Reporter, "Everyone's terrified of Meghan, she belittles people, ignores advice, and both she and Harry frequently change their minds, leading to poor decision making." But the email in question, where she was demanding and rude, was honestly super normal. She woke up early and emailed one of her staffers, hoping to have a meeting with them. She was nice, and the whole situation was blown out of proportion. Now it appears that there's a bunch of people out there who are trying to make her look bad for no reason. And finally, back in June, Justin Timberlake got arrested for driving under the influence. Sources connected to law enforcement said Justin was at the American Hotel partying, and almost immediately after he left and began driving, he blew a stop sign. Cops saw that and began to follow him, and it's then been said Justin began swerving, so the cops pulled him over. TMZ sources said cops performed a field sobriety test and asked Justin to take a breathalyzer test, but he refused. In the end, Justin was handcuffed and arrested, and the whole incident was recorded on a police officer's body cam. He was then charged with 1 count of DWI and cited for running a stop sign and failure to keep in his lane. Now last week he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge in his drunk driving case and was ordered to pay a $500 fine and perform community service. He has to do 25 to 40 hours of community service at a nonprofit, and he was ordered to make a public safety announcement. Yeah, that isn't a good look, and now people are accusing him of getting off easy because he's a celebrity.